Welcome back. So top on the brief this morning is the loss of job for 5 ministers who have been sacked by President Bola Tinubu following a cabinet shake-up that sees appointment of 7 new ministers designate and the reassignment of 10 others. Those are no longer cabinet members. Who are no longer cabinet members include Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Ohaneye, Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejohn. Others are Minister of Youth Development, Dr. Jamila Bio Ibrahim, and Abdullahi Mohammed Gwarzo, who served as Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development. Some of the new appointees include Dr. Nentawe Yilwatda as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, and Mrs. Bianca Ono Ojukwu as Minister of State, Foreign Affairs, and Dr. Jumoke Oduwole as Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, while Idi Mukhtar Maiha will take charge in the newly created Ministry of Livestock Development. Meanwhile, the president also scrapped the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs to create the Ministry of Regional Development that will oversee regional interventionist agencies. The Ministry of Sports Development was also scrapped to allow the National Sports Commission manage the sector, as the Ministry of Tourism has now been merged with that of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy. Now, for the full list of ministers reassigned, kindly visit our website, channelstv.com. More from the FCT. The federal government has dropped all charges against an executive at Binance Holdings, Mr. Tigran Gambarian, on health grounds, as Mr. Gambarian has been facing money laundering trial from detention since April. A counsel for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission announced the withdrawal of the charges at the Federal High Court, Abuja, before Justice Emeka Nwite. The hearing came 2 days before the October the 25th, earlier scheduled as the return date by the trial judge in the open court last Friday. The lawyer said Mr. Gambarian, a United States citizen, was merely an employee of Binance, whose activities he was being prosecuted for, and counsel to Mr. Gambarian, Mark Modi, agreed with the prosecution, saying that his client was not involved in the company's broader financial decisions. And Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benue State has suspended the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice and Public Order, Mr. Fidelis Minyim, for joining states challenging that the establishment of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. Addressing journalists after the State Executive Council, Governor Alia wondered why Benue State will join the League of States challenging the status of the anti-graft agencies who are working to help his administration recover funds allegedly diverted by the past administration. He accused the suspended State Attorney General, Mr. Imyim, of working autonomously without first clearing from his administration.
Benue State has been robbed by past government, and we're only trying to see how we can get something back to develop the state. We have been deprived of our own financial resources here in the state. So why all of a sudden my administration will get back there, to take the EFCC that is even helping the state, or the ICPC that is helping the state, to do some recovery of what is stolen from the state? We're looking for money to develop the state. So why would we go back to say that we're taking these people to the, to the court for proscription? That is not the position of Benue State. And we strongly feel that if we just let that go, lessons will not be learned here. Therefore, the Commissioner of Justice and Attorney General for the state has to pay quite dearly for this. Any person who is representing the state and you are sent out to do any meetings or to hold forth for the state must revert to the state.
In the meantime, the House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Power to investigate the frequent national grid collapses and provide a report within 3 weeks. This decision followed a motion of urgent national importance raised by Honorable Mansour Manu Soro from Bauchi State during the plenary. And in his motion, Honorable Soro says he is concerned over the persistent grid failures which have plunged the entire country into a blackout and worsened the economic challenges already faced by Nigerians. He stressed that stable power supply is essential for driving economic growth and development in any nation.
That the entire states in the northeast, northwest, and some part of the north central zones has been thrown into darkness over the last 2 days in what the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN, described as faulty transmission lines. To mandate the House Committee on Power to investigate this unending power grid collapse, and the House Legislative Committee on Compliance to ensure compliance.
In the meantime, their colleagues at the upper chamber, have called for a nation summit to address the challenges of out-of-school children following their meeting with President Bola Tinubu. This resolution was taken during plenary after the submission of reports of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the compelling need to tackle the menace of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Chairman of the committee, Senator Usman Adamu, representing Kaduna Central, disclosed that over 2 million out-of-school children have been enrolled in the last 1 year through the collective efforts of the agencies of the Ministry working on out-of-school children and education.
The committee considered the submission from the Ministry of Education and observed that there is urgent need to hit the ground and activate the roadmap of the federal government on curtail the out-of-school children.
Senate to resolve to have a national summit on the issue of out-of-school children to bring a holistic solution to the menace of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Those in support of the motion say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it.
And to other issues now, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ekperikpe Ekpo, has voiced serious concerns over the continuing rise in the price of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, commonly known as cooking gas in the country. Despite various measures implemented to address the issue, prices have so far remained unstable, recently jumping from an average of 1,100 naira to 1,500 naira per kilogram. The minister has directed that effective from November the 1st, 2024, the NNPCL and LPG producers must halt the export of LPG produced domestically for or import equivalent volumes at cost-reflective prices, while the NMDPRA will work with stakeholders to establish a domestic LPG pricing framework within 90 days.
It is expected that within the next 12 months, all the facilities necessary to blend, store and take delivery of LPG produced in country will be in place and effectively put an end to export of LPG until a time when the market has attained sufficiency and acceptable price stability. C, that NMDPRA within the next 90 days should engage stakeholders within the gas industry and produce a domestic LPG pricing framework as stipulated in Section 122 of the PIA, indexing the allowable cost of domestic cooking gas to the price of producing the commodity in country, rather than the current practice of indexing against external markets, such as the Americas and Far East Asia, whereas the commodity is produced in country, and the Nigerian people are required to pay a much higher price for an essential commodity we are so endowed with.
Outside our shores now, the U.S. Vice President and presidential candidate of the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, says Donald Trump wants unchecked power. She made the statement while addressing comments that his former chief of staff made about him being dictatorial. In an interview published with the New York Times, John Kelly was quoted to have said his former boss once told him, "You know, Hitler did some good things too." Harris is returning to Pennsylvania before she appears in a town hall event as she rallies voters ahead of the November polls. And in sports, up until yesterday afternoon, we had a Ministry of Sports Development with a substantive minister, but things changed very quickly later in the day when the presidency announced that the immediate winding up of the Ministry of Sports Development following a cabinet shakeup, as you heard in our earlier story. And in a statement on the restructuring of ministries and ministerial portfolios, President Tinubu approved the transfer of its functions to the National Sports Commission in order to develop a vibrant sports economy. President Tinubu also appointed Mr. Shehu Diko as chairman of the National Sports Commission to oversee the role, and pundits have been assessing that development. Meanwhile, the immediate past Minister of Sports, Senator John Owaneno, has now been reassigned as the Minister of Trade, Industry and Development, while his predecessor, Mr. Sunday Dare, returned as Special Advisor to the President on Public Communication and Orientation, working from the Ministry of Information and National Orientation.